Who is that man wearing those glasses right now? I don't recognize him. Can you identify yourself, please?
Soul man Robert Johnson. I don't know if it's because it's early in the morning or haven't eaten a proper English breakfast, but I can't see my screen very good today, John. So not sure what's going on. Lack of sleep.
I hope you could see this TV screen for the Diamond League this morning. It was another great meet. It's our last one for a month, but had plenty to talk about. Great final race of the day. Faneuil Coach taking down Josh Kerr. We had Gudov Sagai doing what she always does, going out in sub 60, running very fast. 4:11 mile, number 2 all time. Sinclair Johnson gets the American record a little bit behind her. We had a really fun women's 800. Georgia Hunter Bell getting the win in front of the British fans, followed up by Charlie Dobson getting another win for the British fans, pulling his best Quincy Hall impression to beat Matt Hudson-Smith. Emmanuel Wanyonyi remains unbeatable in the men's 800 meters, 142 flat, passing Marco Arope on the inside. Season's best for Bryce Hoppel in 4th, 142.71. And a season's best for Donovan Brazier in 6th, 143.08, his first Diamond League in 3 years. Noah Lyles got smoked in the 100 meters, so did everyone, by Oblique Seville, who had an amazing start, 9.86 for the win there. Julien Alfred ran very fast in the 200, 21.71, world leader into a headwind. Robert, am I missing anything else? I mean, this was fun. Gives us a lot to talk about today. Oh, yeah, and on Thursday, the marathon world record holder, Ruth Chepengedich, got provisionally suspended after testing positive for a masking agent. I think Robert may have some takes on that later in the episode as well. This is the Let'sRun.com live post-London Diamond League reaction show. It'll double as the Friday 15, even though it's on Saturday. So much to break down. Where do you want to begin, Robert?
Well, I think I would just like to start there we go. Been having technical difficulties. I'm glad you could see me, John. I couldn't see you, and I could hear you. But can we just appreciate for a moment what we had today? Like, when Grand Slam track was announced, I always said there's nothing wrong with the Diamond League. It's an amazing product. It's just not popular. But we had 60,000 fans for a regular season track meet. We had stars galore. We had Olympic champion in the 100 versus the 200 champion in the 100. No Lyles versus Tebogo. Oblique Seville. We had Josh Kerr going for a British record. We had a loaded men's 800. We had the world record holder in the discus. It was just a great meet. The Diamond League is a hype man, and I'm the hype man. But it was even hard for me to be honest, I was really playing up the Donovan Brazier race all week, trying to get people into that as a U.S. fan. And 30 minutes before the end of this meet, I was like, well, what do we still have left? Because I hadn't read all the previews. I'm like, oh my God, we had got Kerr. So where do I want to start? In terms of what's changed, I think the most significant result might have been the men's 1500. Do you agree with me?
I think so, just because now we know, well, I guess the one question we'd have about Faneuil Coach that we're not going to get an answer to until September is how does he manage the rounds? Is he still going to be able to do this in his first major championship after 3 races? But yeah, we'd seen him race some decent guys when he won in Ostrava, when he was second behind Azzedine Habs in Paris. But we had not seen him step up and face one of the big contenders from previous years. And we saw at the Bowerman Mile a couple of weeks ago, Azzedine Habs shows up, but he is beaten back by Yared Nuguse. He's also beaten by Niels Laros. But yeah, he ran well, but he wasn't, dominating, crushing everyone. This race was different. This was Josh Kerr trying to run a British record, pacing slowed a little bit on the third lap. That was never really going to happen. But Kerr played this thing well. I was like, all right, he's right where he wants to be. He was trying to get to the lead, 200 to go, and Coach just beats him to the punch and destroyed him that last 100 meters. And I think if you're Josh Kerr, or if you're Yared Nuguse or Cole Hawker or Jakob Ingebrigtsen, you come away from that race thinking, there's a new guy in this event. He's a big talent. He's going to be dangerous. He's got the speed at the end of the race. Will he be there after 3 rounds? I don't know, but this guy's got the talent to win it all this year, I would say.
It's kind of weird. I've noticed on the podcast, I'm the former coach. I'm really proud of my Cornell guys on being able to run rounds and stuff like that. You've been harping on the rounds a lot in the podcast recently. And for the most part, I think most of these runners are pretty able to handle the rounds. It's not an issue for me. I actually think for Koech, though, it's actually more of a valid concern than others because A, he's so young. B, he used to be an 800-meter runner. But yeah, I thought he'd been running fast, obviously, in these other meets, Koech, but he won one of these non-Diamond League races, or maybe he was second. I was like, his kick doesn't look that amazing. I'm glad that Kenya has a phenom, but I was thinking like, oh, he's probably a year. Well, we're not going to have a Worlds. He's probably 2 years away from really contending and being a factor with the big three or big four. After this one, I'm like, man, he looked good. I mean, Josh Kerr talked big about going for the British record. He went out hard and he just got beat. And then the gap between them and everybody else, was fairly large, right? I'm going to try to see if I can.
Yeah, I mean, there was the fall by George Mills with 200 to go. It was a little hard to tell how much that affected things. The commentators who were in the stadium, Hannah England and Chris Dennis, seemed to suggest that Jake Whiteman, who wound up getting third, he was third, wound up getting fourth. They said he was thrown off a little bit by it. I'm not convinced that he's going to be that close anyway. But I don't think that helped having Mills go down with 200 to go and kind of throw everyone else off. But I think probably Koech and Co are going to be the class of the field either way.
So I put the results up on the screen. Koech wins at 3:28.82. Half a second back is Josh Kerr, 3:29.37. No one else under 3:31. Yeah, there was the fall, 200 meters to go, as you said. But look at it's more often the order of finish. Nader, Whiteman, Thomas, Giles, Nordes. Adam Spencer, Wisconsin Badger, 3:32.88. I mean, I was watching this race with my 7-year-old son, Samuel Borrega, former indoor champion, 3:32.9. Ollie Hoare somehow keeps getting into these races. He was running aggressively early on in this race, but ends up 11th. Extremely. I don't know if he was affected by the fall, 3:34.03. Cam Myers was having a good one. He must have gone down in the fall with Mills because he runs 4:24. But on the regular podcast, intern Tate was saying, I think all these other fast guys are there, they're relevant. And I don't think they are. Like, I think we have the big four plus Koech plus Laros, and I'm not ruling out Whiteman from getting there, but I don't see that. I guess that's a lot of people. But, this race was all about Koech taking down Kerr on home soil. But what I was saying was I was watching with my 7-year-old, and I told him beforehand, it's kind of fun to think about it. He walked in right before. I'm like, this is the big one. And I'm like, okay, this guy's going to probably win. And I pointed to Josh Kerr because he talked big about getting the British record. I mean, he's talking about being in shape right now. Or this guy could win. And I pointed to Koech and wearing his red Adidas kit. And my son's like, oh, the red guy's winning it. And then I said, I don't think he is. And then at the end, he's like, I was right. So that was kind of fun. But I was watching Adam Spencer. These guys were single file, like 800 meters in. Like he was in the last place or next to last. I pointed to my son. I'm like, this guy's a really good runner. I'm like, they're all good. So it's kind of wild how deep and fast everybody in the world is. But Koech, to me, I guess maybe some people are like, well, Rojo, you're finally convinced that what did he run this year? 3:27 guys for legit? Yes, I'm convinced.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously 3:27 shows that he's got quite good ability, but we've seen so many fast times, and doing that in a one-off Diamond League is a little different from doing it in an Olympic final type race. But yeah, Kerr had been the best 1500 guy in the last 2 Grand Slam track events. He was facing Nagoose and Hawker, beat them in both of those, and now Koech has stepped up and beaten him. So yeah, I think you look at this race moving forward, Koech his PB is faster than Kerr's PB and Nagoose's PB. He's going to be a factor, and it's fascinating because you've got another guy to add to the mix, and there is a bit of mystery about what is his ceiling and how is he going to handle the rounds.
Someone on YouTube chat saying, "Why does this show only show up on Let's Run, not on YouTube?" It's probably some technical mistake by me. I don't know.
No, I think what happened, Robert, is you went live from your personal YouTube account and didn't add the Let's Run YouTube account. So I added that. We should be live on the Let's Run YouTube account right now. Okay, shall we
Oh,
move?
no wonder the viewers were down. I apologize.
Yeah. Shall we move to the other men's middle distance race, the 800, which was won by Faneuil Coach's training partner, Emmanuel Wanyonyi. Kenyan sweep in the middle distances for the men. This was a fun one. Wanyonyi, they said they were setting the pace to, I think they were setting the lights the world record pace on this one, right? And they got out pretty aggressively. It's 49.2 for the rabbit. Wanyonyi was right on there. The difference between this race and what we saw in Monaco a week ago was that Marco Rope was a lot more aggressive. And instead of going out in dead last in an 11-person field, he was up there and in third place at the bell. So we had Wanyonyi a little bit ahead, 49.6, 50.1 for a rope. And a rope makes this big move on the back straight. And Robert, you've often said you only get one move in the 800. And a rope said, all right, this is going to be mine. And he split 25-3 from 500 to 700. I was looking at, I'm like, all right, he's got a good chance to win. But if there's one thing we've learned about Emmanuel Wanyonyi, he's always going to have something in that last 100. If you're going to beat him, you got to make sure that gap's really big, because he's going to, he's a fierce competitor that last 100. Rope ran out of gas a little bit. He closed in 13.7 for his last 100. Wanyonyi was 13.2. And feels like we have this every week in a Diamond League. Someone left the rail open and the winner comes in and gets the win on the rail. And again, with the usual caveat, obviously you're quite tired and at that point of the race, but we saw it with Atui beating Josh Hoey a few weeks ago in an 800. We saw it with Niels Laros getting Yard and Goose. We saw it again today when Yoni just rides the rail, sneaks in, gets the win over rope 142 flat to 142.22. He remains the best in the world right now in the 800 meters.
Sorry, I was updating the results page for the viewers. Waking up early in the West Coast. You can always go to Let's Run, find all the results with one click, not 40 clicks. Yeah, what you said about Wanyonyi always having something in the last 100 is amazing. Like, this was a fun race. Like, I like seeing, just to see Brazier back was exciting. And then he had to share a lane. I mean, that's how much the events changed. Last time, he was in these things, he was getting his own lane. He's sharing a lane. But to see A-Rob go out hard, I'm like, okay, we're going for it here. And then I'm like, they're talking about world record. And then when Yoni sort of falls back, but then I'm like, he's always got something left. And then someone said in the live thread, he's like, A-Rob violated the Rojo rule. If you come out the turn in the lead, don't ever leave the rail open. I still think he probably would have lost anyways, John. I mean, I guess 0.202 of a second. But, look, Wanyoni's amazing. He's the favorite for Worlds. A-Rob is pretty darn good. I think, obviously, very little separated these guys from last year. And I think that we expect him to go 1-2 at Worlds this year again. I'm not ruling out A-Rob from, winning it, but Wanyoni is clearly the favorite. But I'm not sure what to think about the U.S. scene. I mean, I think this was a nice race for Hoppel. It's his first 142 of the year, correct?
Yes, this was the third fastest time of his life, and it was a season's best for him.
But what do you think about Donovan Brazier 143.08? I mean, afterwards, people on the forum, one guy's like, I'm really confident now he's going to make the U.S. team. And I said, well, I'm not really confident. The U.S. is pretty darn good at this event. So obviously you've got Hoppel, fourth in the Olympics last year. You've got Hoey, the world indoor champion. You've got to like their chances. They're really good. Then you've got Brazier. Now, his time today is faster than, anyone else in the U.S. that's challenging for the team has ever run. So I posted that, on the message board. But are you convinced he's definitely on the team now?
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, I've gotten some people saying, "Oh, he can medal at Worlds this year," and I think that's the ceiling. I don't think they're wrong. He also might not make the US team. And I think this race, the way he ran it, I thought was smart because it seemed like a guy who is not in 142 shape right now and didn't want to, he didn't go out aggressively. He didn't try to run at the very front with these guys. I think he ran within himself. And as a result, he closed quite well. I mean, if you compare his last 200 to Hoppel, Hoppel really didn't put much of a distance on him. Hoppel was 26-1 the last 200. Brazier was 26-2. The only guy in the field who closed faster, Wanyonyi was 26-1, so same as Hoppel. But I thought Brazier still had a pretty good close, but wasn't quite ready to run 142s with some of the big guys in the world right now. And I think that's smart because if he did that, he might have overcooked it and just ran out of steam. He's still gaining momentum. And if he runs the race he ran today in the US final, does that get him on the team? I think probably, but I'm not ruling out that Brandon Miller can run 142, and I'm not ruling out that Jonah Koech can run 142. So it's going to be really, really fun, I think. And this was another good positive step forward for Brazier. He was running against some world-class guys. He was in a pack. It wasn't like he had, could just totally dominate this race. It's a good step, but this is a really tough event. This is probably the strongest the U.S. has ever been in this event, run 1 through 5. So it's not going to be an easy team for him to make.
Yeah. As I wrote on the message board, while Brazier ran faster than the PRs of Jonah Koech, 143.32, and Brandon Miller, 143.52, I'm wondering if Miller's ready for a big one at USA's after his recent 335 1,500 meter PB. As a former coach, I think that he is, but I also find it bizarre that Miller enters USA with only one outdoor 800 race this year. He PR'd in Rabat on May 25th and hasn't run an 800 since. So I trust Danny Mackey. I think he deserves the benefit of the doubt to get people ready for Worlds and USA's, etc. These big meets. But it does seem weird to me that he hasn't raced. But if you're a Brazier fan, my concern was it didn't he looked. I don't want to say strained, but it didn't look like he could go a lot faster. He was kind of in the back early on and just sort of this looked like about as fast as he could run. Right, John? Time trial right now.
Yes. Agreed.
And I guess other guys have never even run this fast their entire life, but I'm not ruling it out. Last year was quite, it was quite difficult to make the U.S. team. Josh Hoey was 4th. He runs 144.12. And people are like, wow, that's crazy. You almost run in the 143s and you don't make the team. And someone had shout out to the 1984 U.S. Olympic trial was actually a little faster. It was 144 flat, didn't make the team. So as good as last year was, you go back 40 years ago and it was just as good, if not better. But this year, I think it's even at another level. You could almost run 143 and not make the team. And it wouldn't stun me if somebody ran 142 hot if they were running a time trial, because I think Hoey's just going to go out and push this pace. It wouldn't stun me. Would it shock you, John, if somebody ran 142.9 and didn't make the team?
No. Think about who we've got in the race. We've got the reigning world champion, Josh Hoey, reigning world indoor champion. We've got the 2024 world indoor champion, Bryce Hoppel, who was 4th at the Olympics in 141. And we've got Donovan Brazier, who was an outdoor world champion from 2019 and, just ran his fastest time in 6 years. And Brandon Miller and Jonah Koech, they're not chopped liver either. I think to be on this team, you're either going to have to, it's going to be the 3 world champions, or you're going to have to run fast enough to beat one of them. And all those guys have been running well this year. So, yeah, I think it's going to be fast, like you said, with Hoey pushing the pace. I find it hard to see 3 guys beating Josh Hoey with his fitness and his style of running, but everyone, and I think Hoppel will be on the team just because he makes teams, but I don't know. Am I saying any of these guys is a lock? The one I feel most confident about is Hoey right now, which is kind of amazing because he's never made a U.S. outdoor team.
Correct. Always a lock for me. And then I've got, well, I don't have a lock after that.
Yeah, which I mean, it sounds insulting to Bryce Hoppel, given he so often makes these teams. He's the American record holder. It was fourth in the Olympics, but I just don't know if I can call him a lock
Hoppel
right now,
deserves
given
probably,
how
he probably, I'm just, I'm into coaching matters, and I think Brandon Miller might be ready for a big one, you know. And then Brazier's back, but God, it would have to be a really big one for Miller. Anyways, it's going to be a great. It is a great. You know, we always say the men's 1500 is so exciting because there's tactics and there's time to talk about it and analyze it, but they're not separated. I mean, you know, in the women's running, you got such a huge gap. But let's go to some of these women's races, John. The women's 800 and 1500 were interesting. Which one do you want to take first?
I want to start with the women's mile. I mean,
okay, then let me start it. Let me hold it off here.
Okay, all right. I'm bracing for Rojo's rant against Gudov Sagai's pacing strategy.
You know, people have asked for, members of parliament in Kenya have asked for my apology when I asked Ruth Chip-and-Gedich, what would she say to people who think her time was too good to be true? I'm going to ask the people of Ethiopia for an apology. Like, as a former coach, it insults me to see your mid-distance runners and distance runners run so stupidly in almost every meet. I can't imagine that we have people this talented and this great at running this stupidly. And look, everyone joining, the live stream numbers are going up. A lot of people on the West Coast are waking up. You missed a great Diamond League meet. Lots of big names, stars. We're breaking it down for you live, special live edition of the Let'sRun.com Track Talk podcast. Normally the end of the week show is for our supporters club only. If you want this as a podcast, join the supporters club today, Let'sRun.com/subscribe. But it's a mile race. Gudov Sagai goes out in they have rabbits. She goes out in 59:33. And
no, 93, 59:93.
Oh, okay. So then I lied in the forum. I apologize. I have a slight see, that's why I'm wearing these glasses today. I'm having trouble seeing for some reason. 93. I really thought it was 33. And then she goes, and the crazy thing was, Berke Hylam, the 19-year-old who has a 353 1500 meter PB, goes right with her. And I'm just like, how can these people be this poorly coached? Like, first of all, John, do you know, is Berke Hylam coached by Sagai? Do they have the same coach?
Chris Dennis, I think, suggested that they're training partners. I'm not 100% on that.
Okay. Because I couldn't understand why you would go with Sagai. And if I was coaching Berke Hylam, who's a youngster, super talented, the one advice I would give her is, whatever you do in this race, do not follow Gudov Sagai. She's one of the world's fastest runners in history, but she runs like an idiot. Do not run with her. I would say, if I was coaching her, my advice would be like, here's Jessica Hull. She runs smart every race. Run with Jessica, and you will have your best bet. Anyways, they got in 59:33. On the BBC broadcast, Steve Cram was going nuts. He got it wrong, but he said 1,000 meters into the race, and Sagai, I can tell you one thing. She's not going to be at the front at the end of this race if she even finishes. Now, she did rally and win this race, but she goes 59:33, 2:03:45, 3:07:98, and then still holds on somehow for the second fastest mile ever run, except for, Faith Kipyegon, 4:11:89. Remarkable run. I mean, she's a remarkable talent, but this was just so stupid. And then the poor Highland girl fades all the way to 10th place and runs 4:19. So I guess I just couldn't believe the tactics. It was a good performance. Jessica Hull catches up to her mid-race, and I thought that she would destroy her. But I mean, John, 4:11 miles is pretty damn good.
It's very fast. You say you can't believe the tactics. I can 100% believe it. This is how Gudov Sagai runs. She's been doing this for a decade. She goes out, for some reason, she just goes out in 60 flat or 60. It used to be 61 when she was slower. Now it's like 60 flat or 59 all the time when she's trying to run fast. Like for some reason, either she cannot control her pace, she has no internal clock, or she thinks the best way to run her fastest time possible is by going out in like 59 or 60 low and then just trying to hang on. And it's not. Like, these are her splits. 60.0, roughly, going by this is the race analysis document, but it's rough here. 60.0, 63.5, 64.5, then 62.4. She rallied the last lap, and then plus 1.4 for her last 1.4 seconds for her last 9 meters. So that's just not the best way to run your fastest mile. You want to be way more even than that. You don't want to be going out in 60 flat or 59.9 if you're trying to run like 4:07, which is the world record. And I'm not saying she could have gotten that today, but she would have run faster than 4:11. Now, it's a testament to her talent that she's able to hang on. Like, I thought when Hull caught up to her with the lap to go, I'm like, Hull has timed this perfectly. She's going to have more in the last lap. She's going to win this race. That didn't happen. Sagai rallied and fought and ran away the last 200. But she's winning in spite of her tactics and running fast in spite of her tactics. And it is mind-boggling that she's this deep into her professional career and she has not learned how to pace these races correctly. I know she's gotten good results off of them, but they could be better if she's not going out super hard every time.
Yeah. So what do you think about the medaling prospects of everybody in the 1500? Dark Link on YouTube is saying Hull is not medaling in the 1500 this year. I think Hull's having a perfectly fine season. I've just put up the world 1500 meter leaders. You got Kipiegan at 348.8, Teji 351.44, Hull 352.67, and then Georgia Hunter Bell is fourth. We'll have more on her at 354.76. You'd obviously have to put Sagai in there. The 4:11.88 mile actually sounds more impressive than it is in terms of the 1500. It converts to a 353.17. Obviously, she's capable of running much faster than that because she ran stupidly to run that. But if you ask me to pick the medalist, I'm going to go with Kipiegan, Welteji, and Hull. I don't trust Sagai to get the tactics right.
I agree with you on that. I that would be who I would have as the podium. Georgia Hunter Bell could be a factor. I think it's going to be curious what event she chooses to focus on in Tokyo. I think she should definitely run the 800. The question is, should she add the 1500 and try to double? The 1500 comes first. But yeah, I think those medalists, I just don't trust Sagai to not, try to go out super hard, drop Kipiegan, and then end up fading. We've seen her tactics. She has gotten medals. She medaled in 2022. And then you've also got a question, what other events is she going to be trying to do? Is she going to try to triple again? That sort of thing. So I think there are too many questions for me to pick her against Hull and Welteji, who I trust to deliver on the big stage.
Some interesting comments here. CJ Gunder in the YouTube comments is saying that Sinclair Johnson said Sagai's coach asked if she was going to go through in 202. The Rabbit said, no, I'm sticking to my task of 205. But the other person we forgot about is Nelly Chepchirchir. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I probably would have her as a medalist, maybe as over Hull.
Well, she just beat Hull in the 1K last week in Monaco. So I think
so it would be close. But
yeah.
Now, if Sagai ran for a medal, I would definitely pick her to run for a medal. But I think she's going to run for gold and then blow it. But hey, Steve Cram was wrong. She did win this race. It's incredibly impressive, but it's just incredibly stupid to run that way. It's just physiologically, it doesn't work. Like you see it on the men's side. The times are fast because they run consistent, even paces. And we're just getting, absolute stupidity on the women's side by these Ethiopians, one after another. And I thought, well, she must train. The youngster must train with the guy because why else would you follow her? Like literally, unless because no other coach in the world would say to follow Sagai. Nobody in the world would say that. Like I could teach my 7-year-old tactics today, and he would tell somebody, okay, don't run with her. That would be the advice. Instead, the poor girl ran with her. So, Miss, what's the 19-year-old from Ethiopia? If she's listening, John, if she understands English, coach you. I'm pretty sure that I can coach you to higher than 9th in this meet.
Okay. Well, in other results, Jessica Hull, Australian record, second, 4:13. Sarah Healy continues really strong season for her. She's third, 4:16. Then Sinclair Johnson breaks the American record in fourth place, 4:16:32. Obviously, American women's milers, they don't run the mile that often. There's usually only one per season in the Diamond League, but this was a 0.03 of a second improvement on Nikki Hiltz's time from Monaco 2 years ago. Sinclair Johnson continues to just have a really strong outdoor season. We saw her run 3:56 at pre, now 4:13 in the mile. Sorry, 4:16 in the mile. And I think if I'm picking the U.S. team in the 1,500 meters right now, Nikki Hiltz remains the clear favorite. I think Sinclair Johnson is the clear choice for number 2. And then it's going to get interesting for third behind her. But that's the way I see the event right now.
Yeah, you're right. The 1,500 meter record in the U.S. is much stronger than the mile record. Her time today converts to a 3:57.29. But I'm going to pull up the women's 1,500 meter list, John. And you were just talking about that. How much of she's got great tactics, or has great tactics. And is the U.S. leader.
Hiltz, you mean?
Excuse me, Hiltz. I would put Hiltz at almost 100% for me.
I don't see a scenario where Hiltz really gets beaten, honestly, because they've got the strength to run 3:55 and they've also got the best kick. So, maybe Johnson's running really well, but I think Hiltz has won 5 straight U.S. titles between indoors and outdoors. They're just going to be the favorite until someone.
Yeah, the only way Nikki doesn't make the team is if Nikki is sick. But I have Sinclair on the team, but it's nowhere close to the same percentage. I don't even know what percentages I would put that at. Probably when you got her 3:56.91, Emily McKay 3:57.91, Heather McLean. So,
right. I think the battle. I think for third, it's probably going to come down to the 2 other women who are breaking 4 this year, who are the 2 former New Balance Boston teammates who both left about a month ago, Emily McKay and Heather McLean. And McKay is the number 3 right now at 3:57. And then McLean, her season's best is 3:59 from indoors. She was a good deal back of McKay at the pre-classic, about 2.5 seconds when they raced. So I give the slight edge to McKay, but I also wouldn't totally rule out. The woman I've got my eye on is Maggie Congdon from NAU. She ran 4:02 last year at the Olympic trials as a bid set forward. She just ran 1:58 and beat Emily McKay last week at the Sound Running Meet. That was the 800, obviously. But I think if you're looking for someone who might make a leap and maybe be the surprise third placer, I think she could be it. That's how I see this event right now.
Okay, I got to push back against one of these people listening live. Thank you for listening live. Well, Jinx Jenkins says Sergey ran the second fastest mile ever and won the race. What the heck do you want? Run slower? If she went out slower, she probably doesn't run that fast. Again, the second fastest time ever. You don't know coaching. That's not true. What I want, it's very simple. If you're going to go out in 3:08, I want you to run the first lap no faster than 62 seconds. Then you can hit 2:05, and then you can hit 3:08. She was 2:07, 3:07.98. So go 62, 2:05, 3:07.98, and I promise you she runs faster, significantly faster if she does it that way. So that's what I want. I want someone, it's like physics is undefeated. Physiology is real. There's a certain proper way to run these events, and you're seeing it in the 800s, in the men's side, when they used to blast out the first 200, really slow down in the third 200, and then try to rally. It's much more even paced. The more even you run, the better you run. So that's what I want to see. So I don't know how to prove that to you, but again, the second fastest time feels better, sounds great, but her time was only equivalent to a 3:53.17 1,500, which is fast, but not anywhere close to the second fastest time in history. It's not even the second fastest time in the world this year. So rant over. All right, let's move to the women's 800. again, a lot of people I know didn't watch this live. I'm going to try to put up the splits on the screen, John, or the results. For some reason, and I'm talking about that, you want the more even paces, and this is the perfect segue. I don't understand why they keep wanting these super fast splits. Like, what was the 400 split? It was like 56 low, and they said that's what they wanted. And I'm like, you shouldn't, in my mind, you shouldn't go out in 56 low unless you're hoping to run 154. I just thought it was aggressive. But as they were running in this race, you had Shafika Maloney, who was the fourth placer in the Olympics. But I was thinking to myself, there's no way to prove this. Is this where Georgia Hunter Bell just wrecks everybody? And she did. Impressive. Dominant victory. 156.74. So they had a much slower second lap. Addie Wiley, the U.S. looked good. She moves up. Clear second, 157.43. Helena Nakai, 157.62. Hollingsworth. Maloney, not a good race. 158.47 for fifth. Jimmy Reiki, sixth. Laura Muir, terrible. 2 flat, 95 and 10th. Only like her second race of the year. But this was all about Georgia Hunter Bell for me. Like at the Philadelphia Grand Slam meet, I had a long conversation with her, and she just talked a lot about the 8, and she talked about she might run the 800 at Worlds. I was like, "Oh, you're going to double?" She's like, "Well, I might just run that." I was like, "This was a woman that medaled in the 1500 at the Olympics last year. Why would she run just the 8? Like, that seemed weird to me." And then I don't know if it's her coach. I mean, obviously her coach is his work. Coach Keely Hodgson, to great success, realizes how talented she's at the 8. Or I guess that was her event growing up, or she just has a love for the 8. But you saw in this race today, like, that's not a crazy idea. Like, you put her in the 1500. I don't really see any scenario when she wins the gold medal. You put her in the 800. Is it crazy to think she easily could win? Not easily, but gold's a real possibility, right, John? I think
100%, because there are questions. Mary Moraa hasn't been in form. I think Mo hasn't been in form. Might not even make the U.S. team. And Keely Hodgkinson hasn't raced since the Olympics. So put all that together. Georgia Hunter Bell ran 156.74 today. That's only a 10th off the world lead. Like, she's going to be right there with Daguma and Sigodiso, who've been the other two best in the world this outdoor season. And I think, she'll probably be privy to what kind of shape Keely's in, and how realistic it is that she's going to beat Keely at the World Championships, because they're training partners. But yeah, in terms of like which event does she's not beating Kipyegon in the 1500, not happening. So this is the event that she has the best chance at gold at, and I think she likes running it. And she's got a gift for, I think, measuring her effort. You'll see she's very patient. She does not panic in these races. It happened in Philadelphia where she won by a hair, and it happened again today where, 150 meters to go, she's sort of on the inside. She's behind Nakai and Riki, and you're wondering, like, oh, has she misjudged this? Has she moved? No, she judged it perfectly, got around the last 100 meters, and ended up powering to the victory. I think she just knows really well how to race these things. So I'm sorry. She got second in Philadelphia. I forgot about that. She almost won that one, I think, because she kind of got bumped up in some traffic.
If you're wondering about the schedule, the double is definitely doable. The 1500 is first. That's on September 13th, 14th, and 16th. The 800 would be 18th, 19th, and 21. So I think she's definitely at this point running the 8. At least as part of, double.
Yeah, and what I would say, the other woman I was watching closely in this one was Addie Wiley, because she is the U.S. leader this year. And I think after this race, I'm definitely calling her the favorite for the U.S. championships. And what I liked from her in this race was the patience. I think maybe we'll get to it in a second. She did not go out like right on the front with this aggressive pace, which I think was the right decision given how fast the race went out. And the last 200 meters, she was kind of in a tough spot, unfortunately. Like, she was right behind Hunter Bell, and I think if she just stayed in that spot and used the same gap that Hunter Bell did with 120 to go, she would have been closer. Unfortunately, the problem for Wiley was Shafiqua Maloney was to her right and kind of in front of her and was really struggling that last 200. And there was just really no way for her to get around her. So she essentially, with as they're coming off the final turn, she's just like, okay, I have to pass her at some point. And she didn't want the leaders to get ahead of her. So she ends up going wide around Maloney. Hunter Bell waited just maybe a second or two more and actually found the gap. And that allowed her to run a little bit extra distance. So I don't think it was a tactically perfect race by Wiley, but I think this shows you how good she can be when she's just a bit more patient. She saves something for that last 100. And yeah, I get why she made the move to go around Maloney, because at some point you just have to say, all right, I need to pass you. But this was an improvement. And I think she has shown her fitness wise, she's the woman to beat for me at USA's right now.
Yes. I mean, remember, she ran the American record in the 1,000 in Monaco last week, 2:30.71. Just her last two races have been quite good, second in back-to-back Diamond Leagues. Whereas early in the year, she was running, fairly fast, 158, 157, 158 in the Diamond League, but she was only 5th, 3rd, and 7th. She was also only 6th in the Grand Slam Philly 800. To me, the most impressive aspect was her. I don't necessarily trust her tactics and her. You see a lot of these women's 800 runners like Michaela Rose of LSU. They just really get it wrong, and they're fading so badly in the last 100. What impressed me most about Wiley today was that burst in the last. I mean, she and Hunter Bell just had a lot left in that last 100, and I'm like, if she runs like that at USA's, there's no way she doesn't make the team. So, anyways, I want to give a shout out to Adam. What a day. Low humidity, running along the Charles River and listening to LRC. Perfect. I didn't know you could push play on like YouTube while you're running. I guess that's impressive. Adam, I want you to do one thing right now. It's a beautiful day. Put your hand up right now and just put the number 1 to the finger and just pump your fist and say, I am a warrior. I am a warrior. That was one of the greatest workouts I ever had. I was trying to make the Olympic trials. It was a 15-mile time trial. And I remember thinking, I'm doing it today. I was right on pace and I yelled out, I am a warrior to myself. Just felt exceptional. I want him to feel the same feeling 25 years later. Excuse me, 25 years later.
I like to see a fellow Bostonian having fun. It's nice to know that people are running along the Charles. One of the great city runs in America.
Is it better for all things to narrowly finish 3rd at USA's and make the team and stay with Bobby, or miss out on the team and go back to Milton Mallard? It's better for her to miss out on the team. That to me is like, I'm all over now. I'm not giving him the benefit of the doubt anymore, mainly because of Brandon Miller and this argument y'all brought up. Brandon Miller was not very good under Bobby Kersey. Now he looks exceptional. I'm like, Bobby Kersey and nothing. No, they need to break up. My son, my 7-year-old son, he's learned a lot about crushes. Like, Dad, have you ever had a crush? Have you ever dumped someone? He's really into the dumping concept now. And, I was like, yeah, I guess. You got to find out who's right for you. Not necessarily a bad thing. I said all relationships end. Whether you get dumped or whether someone dies, they all end at some point. It's the reality. So I think may have learned from Bobby and then maybe dumping Bobby.
Okay, Robert, I think we should talk about the men's 100 meters. Noah Lyles running his first 100 since winning the Olympics. And I was curious to see how he did here. He won the 200 in Monaco last week, 19.8 over, Tebogo. Today, Kashane Thompson was in London today. He ran a leg of the Jamaican 4x1 because remember, they needed the time after World Relays. They needed to get a qualifying time. He did not run the individual 100, but another Jamaican, Oblique Seville, did and took a convincing win. I mean, Seville had a fantastic start, and Lyles did rally a little bit towards the end, but he was not touching Seville today. Seville took it 9.86 into a 0.6 headwind, so it's about 9.82 in still conditions. Lyles second and 10.00. Tebogo just, I don't know what it is with this guy. Like, he was kind of banged up earlier in the year. Then he shows up to Prefontaine, runs 19.7. I'm like, oh, he's back. He's really good. And then he gets beat in Monaco, but okay, you lost to Noah Lyles. This race, he's 7th place in 10.12. I trust him to get it together, but he's been pretty inconsistent this season. But I look at this and I say Lyles, it's fine. He's got 2 months to work on this. He's got a gap to close. Like I would still have Thompson clearly as the favorite right now. And Seville, it's good, but I've seen Oblique Seville run good regular season races. And the issue for him is always putting together his best race in the championship final. The last 3 years, he was 4th at Worlds 23, 4th at Worlds in 22, and 8th at the Olympics last year. Each time in those meets, he ran his fastest time in the championship, either in the semis or the prelims. He did not run his fastest race in the final. So unfortunately for Seville, like as good as he can run in the regular season, he really does need to prove he can do it in the final. But obviously, it's better to be winning than losing these races. So this was a good run for him. I really wish Thompson would have been in this field, though. He's in London. He's not running the individual 100. That's a bummer.
I don't have a problem with it. I like some intrigue. And we already saw what happened when Thompson raced Seville a few weeks ago. He beat him. So
we didn't say Thompson. I mean, I want to see Thompson and Lyles.
What do you mean? I know Lyles is the reigning world and Olympic champion in 100. I don't really think of him as a 100 meter guy. I do always think there's someone better than him in the 100. His name is Shane Thompson. And Seville, remember last year you're talking about the Olympic disappointment. He beat Lyles in the semi. They were in the same semi. I think he ran 981. And then ran 991 in the final. I mean, 8th in the final sounds terrible. You run 991. It was a stacked final. But what I don't understand is, I hate Seville's a choker. He's 24 years of age. He's finished 4th at 2 Worlds. Like, I don't think he is this generation's version of Asafa Powell. So, this was a former world record holder who never won gold. I really hope Seville gets a medal. I want him to get rid of that thing. But I wish early race meet, John, our betting guy, was he sending out asking for invites? Were there odds in this race? Because it sounds easy now to say this. Oh, it's clear, but I would have bet a lot of money on Seville winning this race. Like, don't tell me the South African guy, Simbini, who's been winning all these races, is going to win. He'd been winning them in slow times. Like, it was clearly this was into a headwind, a 0.6 headwind. He runs 9.8 low. That's impressive. And for Lyles, it's fine for me. 10 flat in the season opener into the win. That's good. That's good for him. And Tebogo, it's not even that big a deal for me. He's 0.10 behind Lyles. Tebogo's not really a great 100 meter runner. He was 0.07 behind Lyles in the Olympic final. So I know this is okay for me on that level. But I was just, did you see any betting odds in this race? Like, was Seville the favorite?
No, I don't know. I mean, I think Simbine was disappointing here. I know he hadn't faced some of the big dogs, or at least he hadn't faced like Seville or Thompson, but he keeps winning. He was running consistently in the 9.9s in April and May, and now we're getting more closer to championship season. He's South African, so he ran world indoors. He's had kind of a long season, so maybe his timeline's a little different, but you want to be seeing progress. You don't want to see someone going from consistent 9.9s to now 10.11 when he's facing some good guys and we're 2 months out from World. So that was a disappointing performance for me, I think.
I just, why would I expect anything from this guy? He's 32 years of age. I viewed him as an early season wonder. He got in shape and he picked up some money, and that's I'm not.
Well, he was 4th at the Olympics last year. He ran 9.82. Like he has been one of the best guys in the world for a long time. And I forgot, All in the Game mentioned, yes, he actually beat Shane Thompson. I kind of forgot that Thompson ran that early season Diamond League in China, but he beat him in one of those races. Now, obviously, Thompson has started running a lot faster in other races. That was kind of, low, early season race for him. It was not an early season race for Simbine, given he ran world indoors. But yeah,
there was another Olympic 100 meter champion running today. Julien Alfred, she ran the 200, destroyed everybody. 21.71 into a minus 0.6 headwind. Dean Asher Smith second, 22.25. I actually did not see that race, John. My son needed a grilled cheese for breakfast, but she's just, I mean, that's just a beat down. And then the men's 400 was kind of interesting. You got the Olympic silver medalist Matthew Hudson Smith on home soil, wanting to get the win, and he ends up second. He loses to a fellow Brit, Charles Dobson. Couldn't believe it. 44-14 to 44-27. American Vernon Norwood, 44-34. I thought that was actually a pretty good time, John. Again, I do say moist air is less dense than dry air. So the track was wet at this point. It had been raining, but the temperatures weren't ideal for sprinting, right? I mean, some of these sprint times were pretty good considering, I think it was it 73 degrees or 67 degrees? I forgot. I looked it up on my phone.
I think it was right around 70 degrees Fahrenheit. The sun did come out for the second half of the race. That 200, Alfred and Melissa Jefferson Wooden, I think, are ready to pop something really fast so they can just get a friendly tailwind. They had a big headwind at Pre, big headwind in the 100 at Monaco, and a smaller headwind, but still a headwind for Alfred today. Like, Jefferson Wooden could run like 10-6 in the 100 if she gets a nice tailwind at Prefontaine, because that's at Haywood Field, because that's a good track for sprinting. It's probably going to be hot. Like, I think she could run something really fast. Alfred, this was already a PB for her in the 200, but she's in better shape than she was last year. She's going to run something fast if she can, get a friendly tailwind. And then the 400 was crazy. I thought of the Olympic final last year, because Charlie Dobson was nowhere to be seen in this race. He was about 6th place coming off the turn. To go from 6th to 1st in the last 100 is nuts, but he just didn't look like he was tying up the last 100, the last 50 meters, whereas pretty much everyone else was, because it's a 400 and that's how those races go. But yeah, Matt Hudson Smith, like he had to have been thinking, like, I just got Quincy Hold. And Dobson was shocked. This guy did win the Diamond League final last year. Like, he's a pretty solid runner, but this was a really good run for him. Personal best 44.14, improves his personal best 44.23, which was run same meet, London last year.
One thing that we haven't talked about at all was the women's 5,000. This race did nothing for me. It's like, okay, I try to give the Africans the names and profile them, not just as masses. And I'm like, who's in this race? What does this mean? They set when I heard the only thing that made me feel good about the race was they put the pace lights at 14:20. I'm like, good. They're not going to try to set some stupid pace, but then they didn't even go with that. Medina Isa wins it in 14:30 over Fantaye Belanu of Ethiopia, 14:30.90. So they're both 1-2. Rose Davies, Australia, 14:31.45. Is that an Australian record? I assume that might be.
It crushed her own Australian record by 9 seconds she set earlier this year. Yeah, Robert, I agree with you. We just know that the best women in this event are, Gudaf Sagai, Medina Isa, and obviously not Medina Isa, Agnes Ngedic, and obviously Beatrice Chibet, who just set the world record. So when you don't have any of them in this race, you're just like, all right, these are ones who are going to be battling maybe for a bronze if one of those top dogs doesn't get it. I thought Isa, she usually has trouble on the last lap. Now, maybe it's because this field wasn't as strong that she was able to win out, but it was good for her to hold on and win this. She was challenged in the home straight by Fantaye Belene. Yeah, I looked down the results and I thought it was a really good run for Rose Davies. 14:31. They said they were going for Kim Smith's Oceania record. It's pretty impressive. Kim Smith still held it. She had run 14:39, I believe, in 2009 indoors, and that was still the Oceania record, like well into the Super Shoe era. So respect to Kim Smith. Rose Davies has that now. Georgia Griffith was also under it. She was 5th in 14:32. And then looking a little further down in the results, Robert, the one that stood out to me was Ines Fitzgerald, who finished 12th, 14:39.56. She's only 19 years old, 19-year-old Brit. Now, Issa, who won the race, I believe, was only 20 officially. So, I guess this is a double standard here. But when I look at like a Western athlete running 14:39 at age 19, I'm pretty impressed. Someone else on the message board pointed out, Jane Hedengren, everyone's been going gaga about her in the United States this year. Jane Hedengren is only 5 months younger than Ines Fitzgerald, and Hedengren has run 14:57. Fitzgerald just ran 14:39 today. She would have been finishing up her freshman year if she was the NCAA. So she's a really big talent. This is a really good run for her.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I was too negative on like the event in terms of, I just was like at the top level that none of the women were here. And this to me would be a better race. Like if this was at Sound Running or some British meet and you just have or even Australia, and you just have the announcers and like, we're going for the Oceania record. And like people would be going gaga. But for the Diamond League level, it's like kind of disappointing up top, but the depth is insane as you're talking about. I mean, 14:39 for 12th place. And, she's only the second Brit. Nozumi Tanaka, who ran so badly, my girl of Japan in all the Grand Slam races, actually runs 14:34, which is pretty close to her 14:29 PBA. Yeah, but Fitzgerald, two-time European junior or under something cross country champion. I mean, from 15:08 to 14:39 is super impressive. But she'd run the Diamond League 3K a few weeks ago and gotten third. So she's having a nice season. So some of those results are interesting, but like I just wasn't like up front. I was like, this means nothing to me. Like I totally irrelevant. So I guess that's part of the problem with the events, but there was some strong running there.
All right, Robert, I think we've waited long enough. We're an hour into the show. We need to get your reaction to Ruth Chepngetich's provisional suspension. And for people who aren't familiar with the backstory, Chepngetich set a world record in the marathon last year, 209.56 in Chicago, broke the old record by almost 2 minutes, which in turn that's 2:11.53 by Tigges Sefer. And that record in turn is almost 2 minutes faster than the number 3 time in history, which is 2:13.44 by Safan Hassan. So Chepngetich breaks it. The entire running world essentially loses its mind for a week because no one knows how to process a 2:09 marathon by a woman. Some people say, oh, it's, throw out the shoes and change something in fueling. But like, she doesn't have shoes that are much better than what everyone else is running. So like, how is this woman 2 minutes faster than the next fastest person ever? And Amby Burford writes an editorial essentially saying, I don't believe this. She must be doping. That's the only explanation. And I talked to a lot of people in sport, a lot of agents and coaches who just were very skeptical of this. And then the most surreal part of this entire thing was what happened 3 days after the race on the floor of Kenyan Parliament, where just a string of 13 Kenyan politicians make speeches complaining that Robert Johnson, how dare you have the temerity to ask Ruth Chepngetich in the post-race press conference how she would respond to someone who would wonder, hey, could this only have been accomplished through the aid of performance-enhancing drugs? Because this time is so much faster than anyone else I've ever seen. She is Kenyan, and Kenya is in the midst of a massive doping problem. You weren't accusing her of doping, but I think it was a perfectly legitimate question. The Kenyan MPs did not appreciate you going after their girl. And now, a few months afterwards, in March 2025, she tests positive for HCTZ, which is a diuretic, can be used as a masking agent. She's been provisionally suspended and is staring at a 2-year ban if convicted. Robert, your reaction to all of this news?
Well, I think it's sad for the fans of the sport. Someone sent me is interviewing me via email, a journalist, and they said, do you want an apology from the members of Kenyan Parliament? And I said, no. Actually, the way I see it, I was doing my job. John says I didn't accuse her, but I did use the third-handed. What would you say if someone said it was too good to be true? I mean, I guess I could have flat out said, a lot of people think this is too good to be true, including me. But I did the same thing with Regina Jacobs 23 years ago. I said, Tim Ladeness says, thinks you pulled out of the Olympics because of the EPO test. How would you respond to that? But I was doing my simple job, wasn't accusing her, just asking her a basic question, giving her an opportunity to get ahead of it because I knew there'd be skeptics. I was actually surprised by how much skepticism there was. But I was doing my job, and these members of parliament were doing their job, just grandstanding. What I want to see is an apology from Chepengedich and from her agent, Federica Rosa. Like, enough is enough. Like, how often do we have to be put up with this stuff? She better have a good excuse. If she has an excuse, I want to hear it now. I don't want to wait. I mean, I do think everyone has, obviously the right to, in a sense, and people say, oh, you defended Shelby Houlihan. But look, the thing that was most suspicious to me, and we'll talk about this much, much more on a regular podcast on Monday or Tuesday, is she claims she was self-coached to 209. Give me a break. Like, that was the part that was the most shady aspect. But what I want it all to make sense. I want to know the whole story. I would love her to know. John, is it only a 2-year ban for an masking agent?
That's the standard sanction, yes.
Yeah, I wish it was a 4-year ban, and then she could somehow plead and get 2 years if she was cooperative. I want to know it all. Like, are we implying that all her other times were clean and she only recently got on drugs? Like, I just would like to know it all. But
that we know that never happens. Anyone who gets caught, no one ever admits to doping and tells you how it happened. That never happens with these cases.
And I think we try to justify, well, if they're running, it does make sense. If you can run a 1350, it's not that much of a stretch to see someone running a 209. But what was a stretch, I guess, was, like her first half time split in Chicago of 64-16, I think. That's the fastest half marathon ever run in the U.S. And she kept going for another half. So
what didn't make sense to me was why she would improve by 4 minutes.
She's definitely dirty. Like, were we just like, I mean, to go back and listen to the podcast. Did we say she's definitely dirty? No, we didn't, right? We somehow tried to come up with a reason why we believe it. And I think people are like, oh, I'm done with the sport. I'm not done with the sport. We keep somehow buying in. And the reaction is different. I mean, Barry Bonds was just feted at a San Francisco Giants game with a standing ovation. He cheated, and no one seems to care. Now, a lot of people think he was already one of the greatest hitters ever, and then went to steroids late in his career and then got the power. In running, you don't get the same benefit of the doubt. I don't think you should. But how high was the skepticism level at the time?
I think the skepticism was quite high, but you can't just come out on a podcast after a race and say, oh, she's definitely doping, has to be cheating. Like this.
Maybe we should. Maybe we should.
No, I just don't think that's the way you operate in the sport. I don't think you can operate in the sport that way because you never know 100%.
And in the past, people used to say like, oh, you guys are too crazy. You're obsessed with the doping, blah, blah, blah. Just like how people talk about me being obsessed with the trans issue. By the way, if you want to know why I'm obsessed with the trans issue, go to the thread about the women suing Princeton University. Go to page 8. I finally posted why. I've never really told that story before. But like, Robert's obsessed. I'm tired of being told I'm obsessed. They're the ones that made it about me. Same thing with members of Kenyan Parliament. They made it about me, and I just responded.
All right, Robert. But in terms of the reaction, I think we justifiably pointed out there were red flags about the performance. One, she took 4 minutes off her personal best in her 15th marathon of her career. This was not an unknown quantity. She had already won 2 Chicagos, and she had done what she tried to do previously. She went out really hard, and this time she just held on a lot better. So I think we were wondering, how could someone this deep in their career just suddenly level up their fitness so significantly? That was certainly a red flag. I think the coaching thing, like you said, I mean, I talked to another agent who was about that, and they was just pointing out, like, look, you can't just lump everyone in that boat if they're self-coached, but when you're in Kenya and you're not in a training camp, you don't have as many eyes on you. You know, if you're trying to dope in, like, let's say the global sports training camp, Eliud Kipchoge's training camp, you're going to be living around these people for 6 days of the week. You're going to be close to your coach, went for workouts and everything like this. It's just, you have to be way more careful about it. It's not to say that athletes in training camps can't get busted, but when you're on your own, doing your own thing, it's much easier to operate something that way. So I think people were suspicious of that. And then the other thing is just when the time is that much better than the next fastest performance, which in turn is already, I mean, the 2:11:53, there are people who had their doubts about that record because that is almost 2 minutes faster than the next fastest time in history. But when you're improving a world record by that much, that in itself, people are just going to say, how can this one person be so much better than every other woman who's come before it? And maybe we get athletes continuing to compete in super shoes over the next decade and times come closer to that. But I think for a lot of people, this is why the response was so severe and there were so many people openly questioning her, is they just saw this time that was so much better than anyone had ever run and said, I'm sorry, I don't believe it.
But when she pulled out of London this year, we should have just said it. She's obviously been popped.
I think it's irresponsible to just say we can't just leap and make assumptions. It certainly was on my mind when she pulled out and didn't cite a specific injury. I thought something was up. I don't think it's unfair.
And then I would look like a fool if she was pregnant.
Right.
Anyways, look, people saying take a bow. Look, I'm not going to take the bow here. Got up early to watch this meet. Got a lot going on. I'll take the bow on the regular podcast. But if you want this as a podcast, join the Supporters Cup today. Let'sRun.com/subscribe. By the way, Alekna, the discus world record holder, did break a Diamond League record, 71 meters. The newest Oregon Duck. I don't. If Oregon wins the track title next year, I don't respect his 10 points. Like when you buy the world record holder,
10 points. You're assuming he's going to win the title.
Well, I know he has never won an NCAA title, but I'm just saying that now. But this was a fun meet. It was a sold-out crowd. Walden says I'm always negative, but I can't help it. John, do you feel like the atmosphere, though, even though there's 60,000 people, isn't necessarily as good as you get at some of these like smaller European stadiums when there's like maybe only 12 to 15,000, but they're clapping and they're right on top of the track?
The atmosphere seemed pretty good to me on the broadcast. I mean, I know the atmosphere. I was at the 2017 Worlds in London. That atmosphere was as good as any meet I've ever been to. So I'm not really sure. I mean, maybe it didn't come through for you that well, but I thought it looked good to me.
All right, John. People want to know, what is the legitimate world record in the women's marathon? We don't want to call people doping. I'll say this. When I look at this, I'm going to put this list up on the page here. The all-time marathon list should be popping up here. Oops, this is men. Try to pull up the women if it'll let me. Of course, it won't do that.
I mean, what question are you asking me here, Robert? Because I think Chebengek is probably going to get to keep a world record. The positive test was in March. World record was in October. I mean, I think it's ludicrous that we'd be in that situation if her doping suspension is upheld. It's just crazy that would stand as a world record, but that's probably what's going to happen. But if you're asking me to speculate about which of the top 10 women all time are clean and which are dirty, I don't know if I can engage in that. Like, is there a possibility that Teeks Sefer was doping when she ran 2:11? It's possible. Obviously, it's a very fast time, but what do I have to draw that on? What evidence do I actually have to link her to performance-enhancing drugs? I think it's just unfair to say, like that had to have been achieved dirty. So I'm not going to engage in that exercise.
Yeah, I understand. You don't want to get sued. I'll just say this much. I'm going to go with the the way faster than anyone else. That was the same argument. Paula Radcliffe, who's 6th all time at 2:15:25. I certainly think the clean Kenyan record, this is all I'm going to say, is certainly north of 2:16. Yeah, that's all I feel comfortable saying. I will say that these discussions do go on behind the scenes. And there was once a race where a very prominent runner was going for a world record who just it didn't smell the smell test. And when they fell off and didn't get the world record, I got a text from a shoe exec saying, thank God they didn't break the world record in a shoe I designed. Because this shoe exec for the same company that sponsors this person thought that's too good to be true. That person is definitely doped. And there's been some interesting discussions. Again, we'll have much more of this on Tuesday, but like Tony Revis and what can we do to stop this? People saying ban Kenya. I think Kenya's doing a pretty good job of catching people. But do we need to start holding other people accountable? the agents. I mean, Federico Rosa has a huge number, so many Kenyans, and a decent number of Kenyans cheat. Is he responsible, or should he be responsible? Well, if you're going to go down that road, what about Chicago? I think there's been a number of performances that I don't believe in Chicago over the years. And I'll go back 20 years, maybe even world records. That's all I'm going to say. You don't want to get sued. I don't want to get sued talking about an American. Connect the dots if you want.
I think that's a fair thing to wonder about. And like,
but it's hard for them. I mean, like, what are they supposed to do? Think we're not going to let you in the race because I think you're a doper, even though I have no proof.
Exactly. Like Chicago, I think, and Chicago has built itself around being one of the fastest marathons in the world. And they, Kerry Pinkowski wants world records. Both world records were set there on the men's and women's sides. And they're not but I think, like you said, Robert, what are you going to say? Like, oh, we don't want to invite you because we're suspicious of you. And I think there are some marathons who do operate that way. But if you judge your race by the world record, and you're like, well, this is the person who's best positioned to get the world record, we'll just get them. They're being tested. Like, it's not like these athletes aren't being tested out of competition. So I think some of them, and the media, like when you launch in a world record attempt, the media gets excited. We start covering it. We're like, okay, who's going to run fast? Or like the London field, they would have had Chepengedich and Asefa and Hassan, and we're hyping it as the greatest field ever. Like, I don't know. It's a tough spot for these race directors because you want to have fast times, but then you don't want to have someone coming out and like getting popped at your race, but it's kind of inevitable when you're operating the highest level of the sport. So I don't envy that position in that spot. I don't know exactly how you proceed there.
Yeah, it's hard. And I mean, let's be honest. Kelvin Kipton's times were extremely suspicious too, right? A lot of people had doubts about those from the get-go, from the moment he ran in Valencia. Like, who is this guy? Now, maybe he's just the greatest talent ever. I mean, the one thing he would have going for him is from the very get-go, he was running things we'd never seen before. I mean, Chepengedich was pretty darn good from the get-go, but she wasn't she wasn't running within minutes of the fastest time ever. But society's full of frauds and cheats at all levels. I mean, we're celebrating. Again, I don't know for a fact, but Faja Singh gets a New York Times obituary. He's inspiring us all for running a marathon at age 100. He almost certainly wasn't 100. If you put a gun to my head, I'm saying no, he lied about his age. Maybe not intentionally, but he did. And then he's still feted, and Barry Bonds is feted. Some cheats are feted and get success and riches. Lance Armstrong, very rich man, still today. Others are pariahs. And that's just life. As I tell my son, life's not fair. We'll have more on the regular podcast, including I'll really take a bow then. But Walden told me recently just to be a little bit more subtle in my celebration. So it was a sad day to sport. It's like dancing on the grave. Kind of sad. But anyways, good meet. Fun morning. Hope everyone enjoyed it. Anything else, John?
No. Good sporting weekend. Tour de France is getting exciting. We got the Open Championship at Royal Portrush. Women's Euros going on. So, yeah. Just
one last thing. How this went down. John's on the email list from the doping authorities. He gets a press release. He's like, calls me up a meeting. I said, Robert, you're not going to guess who's been positive. And I recorded myself going through my mental main, but again, I was kind of caught off guard, and my brain is not as sharp as it used to be. I was like, I need to go listen to that again, John, who I was thinking. And then you told me, I go, okay, I'm going to pull up the Olympic results and just go through the results one by one so I can think of the events that way. And then you told me, don't go through the Olympic results. And that kind of threw me for a loop. And it made me feel good because then I thought, okay, there's no Kipyegon, there's no Jakob. I did get, and I was trying to think like who I was going to come up with. I mean, Hoey would have been unfortunately up there because he wasn't in the Olympics. I was trying to think who else could it have been, John. This was number one, though, right? Ebony Mark. If you ask any track fan last week and really think about it, you have betting odds. Like which performance in the last 24 months is most suspicious in all of track and field? That would have been it, right?
100%.
And I wonder what number two would have been.
Well, that's a debate for another time. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of the weekend.
Oh, yes.
Great.
The numbers have gone way up, John. I guess when I promoted it yesterday in my personal YouTube channel with like, and there's not even supposed to be a personal YouTube channel. That's when I like try to send something to my medical doctor unlisted. Like, hey, my stomach's hurting here. Should I be concerned?
Unlisted emails from a medical doctor? Are you?
People didn't know that I was like
sketchy. That Robin. That sounds like someone might be
YouTube page last night. So the Let's Run YouTube page. So there was no notice until we went live. Well, unless you're on the homepage, and that's why you should be on the homepage every day. Go to let'srun.com. Let'srun.com, not slash, just let'srun.com.
Okay. Have a great weekend, everyone. So long.